Margaret. I'd like to say that it's so great to get to speak with you today. To begin, I have always been fascinated by your story and how you got to where you are today. Can you describe your upbringing and influences?
Yeah, so first I'd like to say I'm super happy to be able to be here today and to have the opportunity to tell my story. So starting from the beginning, I was born in a small town in New York called Corning to my mother Ann Higgins and my father Michael Higgins. A lot of the influences in my life came from my childhood and the people around me. My father was a strong supporter of women's suffrage and free public education. He had a lot of liberal influences on my life. My mom lived a very short life, but her story had the biggest impact on me. She went through 18 pregnancies in the span of 22 years, only 11 of which survived to term. Her pregnancies and tragedies had a huge impact on her mental and physical health, and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone or any woman. So from my childhood, I realized that in order for women to have a more equal footing in society and to lead healthier lives, they needed to be able to determine when to bear children.
I completely agree. Now I am wondering about your next step. How did you go about nursing and activism?
Well, in hopes of seeking a better life than my parents before me, I decided to go to school and get an education. I decided to attend Claverack University and Hudson River Institute. I then realized that I wanted to study nursing, so I went to White Plains Hospital. About this time, I met and later married my husband, Will Sanger. My husband was a complete leftist, and I also began to immerse myself in radical politics. The two of us began to engage in the world of liberalism, socialism, and the likes of it. We lived in Greenwich Village of New York, and we just began the activism journey. I spent time with so many wonderful activists and just amazing people. During that time, I joined the Women's Committee of the New York Socialist Party and the Liberal Club. I was and still am a supporter of the Industrial Workers of the World Union, and I actively participated in strikes, protests, and walks. I was doing everything I possibly could to change the world I was living in.
Can you talk about your experiences with pioneering sex education?
Yeah, well, after my schooling, I began working as a visiting nurse in the East Side slums. In the area, I wound up treating and working with a lot of women and girls who had undergone back alley abortions. I noticed and I began to think that maybe if people were receiving better sex education, there would be less unexpected and unwanted pregnancies. It was here that I started my campaign to educate women about sex. I decided to write a piece called What Every Girl Should Know. It had a lot of good feedback, so in 1914 I decided to write and publish a feminist publication called The Woman Rebel. This got me in a bit of trouble, and I would have been imprisoned if I hadn't fled to England. While I was there, I did everything I could to come up with new contraceptives and ways of spreading sex education to the people of America. And this was all because no woman can call herself free until she can consciously choose whether she will or will not bear children.
It's clear to see that you're passionate. Would you talk about what happened after you returned to America?
Yeah, when I returned, I quickly began spreading the words birth control, which I came up with, by the way. But by 1916, I opened the first birth control clinic in the US. But only 9 days after we opened, we were raided. While my staff and I did spend some time in jail, it was completely worth it. Why, you might ask? The court made an exception in the existing law to allow doctors to prescribe contraception to my female patients for medical reasons. This was a huge step forward in the movement. I couldn't have been happier. So happy that I jumped right back on the train and started the Birth Control Review and published it.
Can you tell us about ABCL?
Yeah, ABCL stands for American Birth Control League, which is known today as Planned Parenthood Federation of America. By the way, I believe they have one of those on campus. It provides many resources from pads, tampons, contraception, to advice and more. But anyway, getting back into it, in 1923, I finally opened the first legal birth control clinic in the US. This was one of my greatest accomplishments.
Well, Margaret, you truly lived an extraordinary life. From nursing school to activism, to opening the first birth control clinic, to coming up with the pill. You have quite a story. I'd like to thank you for talking to us today. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, I'd like to once again thank you for having me. And as a final statement, I'd like to encourage you all to support the women in your life. Respect their rights, respect their choice, respect their body. Don't let society take steps backwards on anything. Progress is not dead. Progress is not done. Continue to stand up for what's right. And thank you.